At last, the strongest military in the world is finally being added to War Thunder. The BeNeLux. The air subtree has already been added, but we're still waiting for the ground subtree, which will likely be added next update or sometimes later. And in this video we're gonna look at some of the potential vehicles that could be added in said subtree. Now I have to admit that I'll primarily be focusing on the Netherlands here, as I myself am Dutch, and because Belgium and Luxembourg just don't have a ton of interesting vehicles. Like Luxembourg. I love Luxembourg, right? Beautiful country. But their military is, yeah. But I will mention Belgium a couple times, as there are some overlapping vehicles that were used by both Belgium and the Netherlands. But after all, we all know Belgium is basically just southern Netherlands anyway. A lot of vehicles I'll be mentioning I found in this user-made Dutch tech tree, made by these people. And I'll be using this as a reference as well as some other information that I gathered through other sources over the years myself, i.e. made up. With that all out of the way, we will start with complaining. Why the hell was the BeNeLux being added to the French tech tree? Isolating the Netherlands here for a moment, the Dutch army was always very close to the German army instead, and still is. I mean, a part of those couple of years around 1940, we've been practically building our armies together. The Fennec and the Boxer, which we both use, were developed by Germany and the Netherlands together. We were one of the first to use the Leopard 1, and we produced a ton of the Leopard 2s. And our current Leopard 2s are literally part of the German army. So why not have the BeNeLux be added to the German tree instead? Or better yet, have it their own full tech tree? I guess it's possible that Gaijin is planning on adding a different subtree to Germany. That's the only explanation I can come up with, but I digress. Let's get to the actual vehicles now, and we'll get the boring copy-pasta stuff out of the way first, which I'm afraid will take up a good part in the final subtree. Our earliest armor were a lot of American stuff. We had Shermans of all kind, from the earlier 75 to the longer 76mm, and even the M4A3 105 howitzer. We also had some Stuarts, Chaffees, and even Fireflies. Now if I were to guess, out of these we'd probably get a Chaffee and a 76 Sherman of some kind. Maybe a 75 Sherman or Firefly. France already has a lot of American stuff at low tier, so I hope we don't get too much of this and instead get some more interesting vehicles. Like the Canadian Ram, for instance, which I think is pretty likely to be added, as I believe the Netherlands was one of the only ones to use the Ram outside of Canada. It should be noted that Belgium had some Pershings and early Badens, as well as some of the previous mentioned American tanks, so who knows. After this we got a lot of British Centurions, which I think we will be getting one of, likely a Mark III or Mark V. Maybe a Mark 7. After that we just got a shit ton of Leopards. For the Leopard 1 it could be the very first variant of the Leo, as both the Netherlands and Belgium used this variant, or the Leopard 1A1A1, which we the Dutch had an absolute ton of. Although Belgium also had some up-armored Leopard 1s, and I think this would make a good premium or event vehicle, but again, who knows. After that we of course got to the Leopard 2s, exclusively used by the Netherlands. We could get the Leopard 2A4, 2A5, A6, maybe even the 2A8. Ooh. My guess would be that we get the 2A4 and 2A6, with maybe the 2A8 once it'll be added to the game, and once the Netherlands adopts it as well. I definitely think they'll be leaving out the 2A5, which is fair, as we really don't need more top tier Leopards than Germany. I mean, Sweden is already cucking Germany like that. I was also hoping we'd get a CV90, which we actually already got in-game. We could even get the newer CV90, the midlife upgraded version, but I honestly doubt we'll get this thing anytime soon. Believe it or not, we actually had some French vehicles as well, primarily AMX-13 variants. Now the base AMX-13 that is already in-game fucking sucks, but we did have some up-gun versions, which I think could be nice, as well as an ATGM version, and this absolutely adorable thing, which I'm surprised isn't in the game yet, to be honest. It gets a 105mm howitzer, and if it gets added, my guess would be somewhere around 4.0, maybe a bit higher. where I don't think it would be too much out of place among World War II vehicles. This would not be the only artillery option though. The M109 is an obvious choice, being used by both Belgium and the Netherlands. Plus, I mean, 2/3 of the nations in this game already have this thing, so what would be one more, right? Another great choice would be the Panzerhaubitze 2000, which, again, I'm surprised it's not in the game yet. Needless to say, Germany would get this thing as well. But there's another howitzer that could be added instead. The M110, a glorious, open-top 203mm howitzer. The epitome of no armor best armor. Basically a field gun on tracks. I genuinely think this thing could be really fun. If it wasn't for gas, at least. If I were to guess, I'd say it wouldn't get the nuclear shell though, but that's just me. There are some other miscellaneous vehicles like the Archer, Achilles, Sexton, Gepard, Wally, and the YPR 765 that could be added, but I doubt they will. Now, let's get to the meat of this video. Insert Top Gear joke here. Cars. We the Dutch had a lot of cars. Even during World War II we had a lot of cars, many of which were very funny, as shown in this picture, where I can't be bothered to point them out individually. A lot of them were either Swedish or British, and we even had some of our own. Though these were largely just trucks with machine guns strapped to them, and some armor plating if you were lucky. We also had some American cars, such as a Ford T8 with a 37mm, a 1951 Ford CMP3 with a 40mm autocannon, or just a Jeep with a 75mm cannon on a fucking swivel. I think it's pretty likely that we get one or two of these British or Swedish armored cars as low tier options, and I pray that we get some of these American ones. Higher tiers would bring us more Jeeps and Land Rovers, but this time with recoilless guns or guided missiles. Especially the recoilless guns would be so much fun. Gaijin, we need those. Though, likely, again, without the nuclear rounds. But that's just me. Also, please don't make the gun traverse so fucking slow like you did on our German friend. There's also a Mercedes-Benz 290 GD, equipped with a tow missile. But there is one vehicle that has to be added. One of the only fully Dutch vehicles. And not just a milk delivery truck with an anti-whatever system bolted on the top. No, no, no. This is the DAF YP408. A milk delivery truck with an anti-whatever system bolted to the top in full plate armor. Like the Jeeps, there's a variant with a tow missile, as well as some versions with a 105mm recoilless gun. Look, this one even has the gun placed in the back. Woohoo. I really hope one of these versions gets added as one of the few true Dutch military ground vehicles. If it doesn't get added, I will genuinely be upset for a little bit. Today, the Royal Dutch Army still uses cars, though admittedly less funny, with the Fennec as the one with an actual chance of being added to the game. There are a couple variants that could be added, with the primary version being the MRAT variant, or medium range anti-tank, equipped with an ATGM. The second most likely version to be added is the Fennec SWP, equipped instead with Stingers for use against aircraft. A third variant is the Mortar Carrier, with an 81mm mortar. I don't know if this thing would be very useful in the game, however. I think it could work as an event vehicle maybe, being very fun but not very good. But it would require testing, and I fully understand if this version doesn't get added at all. Honestly, I don't expect the Fennec to be added at all. Not with the initial sub-3 release at least. But I really hope it will be at some point. The last vehicle I'll briefly mention is the Boxer APC, a vehicle we've just gotten a second variant for in the game. The Netherlands uses this vehicle pretty extensively, but the only combat-capable variant we use is armed with just a 50 cal. Now, we technically do have vehicles with just a 50 cal as a primary weapon, like the M2A2, but the Boxer would have to be placed at like 1.0 or 1.3, where it would just look completely out of place. There's also an AMX-13 and YP408 variant armed with just a 50 cal that was used by the Dutch, but again they feel out of place at such a low tier, though far less than the Boxer. I don't see any of these vehicles being added, which is fair, But again, it would have been nice to see the subtree added to the German tree instead. So we could use a Boxster, albeit technically not a Dutch one. Needless to say, there are a ton of fun and interesting vehicles, but likely only a fraction of them we will actually see in-game. And it saddens me. These users have shown that you can make a full tech tree with just Dutch vehicles, even when leaving out some of the copy-pasted vehicles like the Centurion and a lot of the Leopards. Making it a full BeNeLux tree would make it even more fleshed out. It would have been a more unique tech tree than China and Israel currently are. And this doesn't just go for the Netherlands. Take a look at these fully fledged Turkish or Hungarian tech trees. Turning the BeNeLux in just a subtree instead of a full tech tree feels like it's a little bit of a wasted potential. But I'm still very excited to see what vehicles we're getting. And I hope we'll get more as time goes on in the form of either tech tree updates or event vehicles. That'll be all. If you think I missed any vehicles, do let me know in the comments. Now subscribe.